Hi, Conrad.
Hi, Sadie. Thank you for inviting me to this interview. Great.
Thank you for speaking with me. My first question for you is what got you interested in I2P?
Well, about 10 years ago, I got invited by Technologieforum Zug, which is a local association bringing together as a networking organization the tech companies of the Canton Zug here in Switzerland. And there I wanted to show them I2P and Tor, so to show them that there are other interesting things are existing outside their world. And in general, I was very much interested in cryptography and algorithms, like also for networks. And in general, I'm very interested in freedom and privacy technology, both on the technology side and also on a social side. So these are the things which I'm very much interested in. To make an example of these older algorithms I was interested in, it's called Hashcash, which was developed in the 90s by some universities in the United Kingdom. And it was an early form of proof of work, which was really interesting at that time and which was working well. And I2P, to come back to the topic, was that fascinating to me because it's that carefully done. From a software architecture point of view, up to the implementation in Java and in C++, it's really, really well done. And these are things which I admire, which I really like. And from my point of view, as a software architect, I prefer decoupled and small programs which do one thing very well. And so that was the reason in the area of I2P, why I was that much fascinated by I2PD, which is written in C++ and which is also a member of this I2P family. For me, I2PD works very well, and it's a great thing to use.
It certainly is, and it's good that we're talking a little bit already about the different flavors of I2P. So I'm sure that later on in the conversation we're going to get back into that a little bit more too. So what are the qualities in I2P's technical capacity that aligned with your work and interests?
As said, the way I2PD is done is extremely careful, and I call this, well, high-level craftsmanship. It's a form of art, well, programming and doing really great programs, and that's awesome for me. That's very fascinating. So I2P also creates values for end users which can't be bought, like autonomy for end users, well, liberty, and also something which is important, serenity in the use of networks. And I admire I2P for delivering these things to end users a lot. It's really well done. Additionally, I2P is agnostic. As long as an application talks TCP and UDP and can handle some latency, because I2P isn't the fastest thing in the world, the network. But as long as this is given, any application can do anything over I2P. And that's so fascinating in my world that this is possible. So when we remember the very old saying called "the network is the computer," I2P adds the fact that the communication in this network is truly private. And that's a great thing.
I just wanted to echo your sentiment about the craftsmanship and the art. And those are a few of the things that I also find incredibly compelling about I2P, as well as there's an incredible value in the work to learn really about in a much more hands-on way because of the architecture, about our connection in networks and to each other. So DIVA, who's it for?
Currently, DIVA is in active development, which means, well, currently it's for developers, it's for researchers. We do lots of research also together with the I2P community. It's for communicators. I'm also trying to attract some illustrators and designers for front-end design. People who really want to know how distributed networks, fully distributed networks are working. That's what DIVA is for. And once DIVA has grown up, which I do not personally know yet when this will be done, but when DIVA is growing, it will be a fully distributed, self-hosted, what we call bank for everyone.
Wonderful. And for people who don't know, can you tell me about what DIVA does?
Creating a fully distributed bank tries to give people back the control over, well, the financial control over their own funds and over their own things. Because banking, and me as a Swiss, I should know, banking means something like, well, savings, payments, investments, loan. So all these little things we do all day long and decisions we take all day. And it's important to understand that DIVA, as the bank for everyone and as a fully distributed banking system, it's self-hosted, so it works without any central infrastructure. DIVA will never be any coin or a token, at least as I have something to say in this process. And since there is no coin token involved and there is no central business model, also all the transactions and the fees which will happen in this distributed network, all the fees which might happen or which might become reality in this network will remain on the node which did the work for the network. So that's what I call fully distributed, also from an economical point of view. Now, why do we say that DIVA is a bank? We of the DIVA Association believe that the financial liberty and autonomy is key to live a good and also peaceful life, and to be able to make all those daily decisions in freedom. Therefore, people, that's how we see it, people shall own their own secure and small technology to do whatever they like to do without being nudged. And that's why we believe that DIVA as a software project is a good thing, and it works very well together with I2P.
That's wonderful. And so what are some of your upcoming goals or stretch goals in your roadmap?
The I2P team did some hard work in the past months and years. And one outcome of this very hard work is the so-called, well, SSU2 implementation, which has been done in the past months. And we at DIVA, or me as a developer also, and all the other developers involved, they need to understand how stable the network is with this change. And so this is a very short-term goal. Within the next weeks, we need to understand SSU2, which has been implemented by I2P. We need to understand this better. That's a very short-term goal. And then the next one is we want to do some cryptocurrency transactions on the testnet of DIVA and on the testnet of the involved coins. For us, this is important to understand how well DIVA works and how well the decision mechanism of the blockchain, so DIVA chain, works, stuff like that. We, by the way, well, it's important for me to say that we only work on testnets because we are a research-driven association. We are not involved in creating any infrastructure for others or things like that. That also wouldn't be wouldn't be fully distributed, it wouldn't make any sense. So we're a research project at DIVA, and we're involved on creating stuff on test networks. And I hope that people are inspired by the work we're doing, so they see how else they can use DIVA. Then regarding a further outlook, which also touches the I2P community, DIVA as an application is based on DIVA.EXCHANGE, which is the blockchain, so the storage layer, which stores all the data and takes decisions of the distributed network. Now, this DIVA.EXCHANGE, this is very generic. There is nothing like, how shall I say that? There is nothing like that DIVA.EXCHANGE is only useful for a specific application like banking. And therefore, DIVA.EXCHANGE could also be used as a fully distributed domain name service of the I2P network. So if some I2P developers feel motivated, then they could use DIVA.EXCHANGE to implement a fully distributed, trustless domain name system for I2P. And this could replace, or not replace, but also, well, how shall I say that, live in parallel with other mechanisms which serve some domain names on the I2P network. That would be, from my point of view, also an interesting approach of using a fully distributed storage layer in the area of I2P.
That's fascinating. And you've mentioned the test net. So we're going to want to make sure that people know how to get in touch and test and work with you. So we'll make sure that we provide all that information for people as well to get on board with you and start testing out everything.
Oh, thank you.
So what are some of the other services and contributions that you're responsible for with the I2P network?
There is the receipt server we're running for I2P, the I2P network. DIVA Association, or DIVA.EXCHANGE, which is an association based in Switzerland, which is open to everyone. This is the organization which runs this receipt server and pays the bills for it. That's what DIVA.EXCHANGE, the association, is doing. And this receipt server, that's at least how I see it, quite important for the I2P network, because it helps bootstrapping new users into the I2P network. By the way, this receipt server of DIVA is also available as an onion, so as a Tor service. So those which want to use it over as an onion site, they can do this. And it's an additional layer of protection. And I believe that might be helpful for some people. Then DIVA, as a side development, has created an I2P SAM library. Such a library is used by application developers to develop any application. That's what we were talking before about it. So any application which is based on I2P needs a library to use this network. And DIVA has created the I2P SAM library, and it's found on GitHub. So every developer can use it and create some I2P applications on top of it.
That's excellent. So I wanted to ask you, what are some of the priorities you think that anyone who wants to contribute to the I2P network should consider? So we've just talked about, application development. What else do you think we should be considering?
I believe it's important for any new contributor to first run his own I2P node, because he or she has to be familiar with his own installation and with its own configuration, to be, well, comfortable with it and happy with its own installation, because there are several flavors of I2P available. Some might be very happy with the Java version, others might be happy with the C++ version, and. So the first step, install your own node and feel comfortable with your installation and with your configuration, and that's a good thing to start. And then maybe there are it depends a lot on the skills somebody has, because I believe that's the most important thing, is the own skills. There might be network skills, there might be communication skills, there might be development skills, and depending on that, I2P has to offer a lot of interesting challenges. There is the development challenge to help, for example, with the newer Go version, or with C++, or with Java. Then there are for sure always front-end challenges for front-end developers. Then there are lots of communication skills, documentation, and illustrations always need improvement. That's so important for people to have a clear view on a project. Also, probably doing good social media communication, being objective there and realistic, that also helps a project a lot. Because I2P is that seriously done, it needs people which are also like value, which create real value and do understand their work as kind of like art. And this is true for all aspects, also for social media work. So being realistic and transparent and open there, and objective, that's a great approach too. Last but not least, I'd like to throw in the research opportunity. I believe every privacy network, whether it's I2P or some other, they need research. So researchers and students which study very well how the network behaves, how it misbehaves, how it can be abused, being skeptical, being critical. These are all important things which need to be done in the area of research. So this is also an area where contributions are very, very welcome.
I agree. So I've been, involved with the project for so many years, and there's still an issue, I think, with capacity and trying to find people to do front end work, or I work in documentation. I'm always trying to do this, like more of a outreach and get to know people now, and there's just a lot of plate spinning in free open source. So it is really, there is so much that anybody, I think, can kind of get involved with. And as far as setting up nodes, if you would like to help me with my new software onboarding guide, it's one of the things that I'm really passionate about, is making sure that the onboarding for the Java distribution, because it has a bigger user interface, will have a much more clear definition of everything that you can do with it. So I'm hoping to get that updated within the next few weeks on the site. So
cool.
Afterwards,
so
if you want,
so important.
Yes, and it's again, I think that it needs to be said that we are all we're always working in small teams, and sometimes past our capacity in some ways. So it's really important for, I think, us to have these conversations and get to know each other to better support our work. So my next question for you is, where do you see the conversation and outlook on tools like I2P now? I've definitely seen the kind of the way that we talk about privacy tools change, and privacy itself, the conversation around privacy. What's your perspective there?
Well, that's a difficult question. That's the most difficult question. What I can say is something regarding the outlook. I hope very much that the I2P developers get enough appreciation from the community, because they do such important work for, well, de facto everybody. Because the privacy tools like I2P are, for those people which think about technology, super important. I use it well, obviously I use it within DIVA, so I use it every second, but also other people in different situations need these privacy tools. So the development of I2P and all the really difficult technology which is in there and which has to be done carefully is super important. And I hope that the developers also in the future get enough motivation and appreciation for their important work. So that's what I hope, and that's kind of like an outlook. Additionally, I hope very much that the I2P software gets as perfectly crafted as it's today, but a bit more decoupled, so that the user interfaces can be decoupled from the core of the development, and that maybe younger and other front-end developers can kick in, and they are motivated to produce their own new front ends, which then look maybe a bit more shiny than it is today. And then this would be, for me, an outlook would be that the software is a bit more decoupled than it is today. That's, by the way, an example why I'm using the C++ version, because it's just doing one thing. It's doing the networking for me. But all the other things, like front ends or other applications, is then like a different layer. And I hope and I believe that the outlook should be that the software components are decoupled from each other and a bit more independent. And like this, maybe more contributors, maybe not, but maybe more contributors are motivated to bring in their own stuff and their own applications.
Yes, the router agnostic applications is something that I would like to see, or the router being shipped in the application. And I know we have some really good kind of examples of what can be done. Right now, I'm working, one of my several projects that I keep moving along is an I2P application hub. So a place where we can showcase services, applications for the community, and hopefully get people really involved, and also as a community kind of maybe come to consensus about best practices, and maybe we can get some designers, some front end designers in there, and people who can test we can get more user testing on applications, so that we can, really start to get more happening, I think, in terms of communication and building these really shiny tools based on I2P. So again, there's another thing that I'm trying to move along. It's a little bit slow right now, but I do have a pretty good start there. And all of this work and all the people that we're going to be talking with, I'm really hoping that we're going to build some excitement for more people to want to kind of come on board and work on applications on I2P, as well as support the core development team where they can as well.
But that's really great to hear, because, for example, what I need to become much better in is I need to understand the plugin mechanism of the Java implementation much better, because I was like focusing that much on, obviously, on my own development of DIVA and I2P and bringing that stuff, but I still need to understand this plugin mechanism, for example. I need to understand that much better, because I believe that's also a valuable approach.
Mm-hmm. And maybe a little bit of a segue, but I've spent a lot of the last, well, not the last 6 months, 7 months. I was able to, I had a small grant that I was paid to actually bring people on, where I could interview and put I2P in front of people all over the world. And that was when I had the most valuable insight about people understanding I2P, wanting to use I2P, needing to understand better, but also the real need for applications. And so that inspired, well, we already did a big documentation overhaul on the website many years ago because we had not decoupled the Java software from I2P. People would say, what is I2P? Well, how do you answer that question? So I realized we did not even have a clear in our onboarding docs. We didn't really have onboarding docs at all for the software. It was all kind of buried in the technical docs, and so we had to. I pulled that out, and now I'm going in with another iteration when I'm looking for. But I'm looking for peer review on that before we implement it, and because I'm getting more feedback, so I guess understanding the full capacity of I2P is something that we all still kind of, I feel like even the people within the community who know I2P, there's still so much learning to do there, and it's really fun. And then also stepping outside and finding other people and saying, hey, what do you think about this? What would you like it to do? And getting that feedback as well to steer the course a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you use I2P. So I was wondering if you could tell me a bit about your own I2P workflow and your own use cases.
Okay. Since I'm a developer mainly and a researcher which needs quite some flexible environments, I love containers. So I'm trying to pack everything, really everything, into containers. So I have several I2PD containers, well, which are Docker containers running, and some of them are the backend for the receipt servers, others are the backend for the I2P website, the test website, DIVA.I2P. Then others are behind the DIVA chain test network. So everything I do is packed into containers, and that's why I'm also updating the I2PD Docker containers regularly. So I'm compiling all that stuff by myself in my own environments. Then I pack it into containers, usually make it configurable with some environment variables so that other people also can use those containers if they like. And I publish those containers publicly under open source licenses under several hubs which are available on the internet, like Docker Hub. So that's more or less my workflow, which has been established in the past few years.
Thank you for sharing that with me. It's nice to hear what people are using I2P for and the capacity. So thanks. And last but not least, how can the I2P community support your work?
Right. I want to put research in the first place. Again, would like to really make this stand out, the research efforts we do. If there are students, researchers in I2P community which are part of a university, I would be super happy if they get in touch with me to do the next I2P research in Switzerland at the University of Applied Science and Arts in Lucerne. We already have the next works announced, but there are no students or researchers yet. And this research is really important to me and to the whole I2P community, because I believe it really helps to make I2P better in the long run. So it's something which I believe is important. And if there are I2P community members, please get in touch. That would be superb.
Well, hopefully you're getting some more support. Recently, we've been definitely plugging you on our social media. And so we'll make sure that all of your information is posted, where to find you after when we go to publishing. So I wanted to thank you. Thank you so much, Conrad. Everything is sounding so exciting and positive, and this is the work you're doing is going to build so much more capacity into the network. And I wish you the best and look forward to maybe getting some work done together on the how to set up a node guide.
That sounds very good. So thank you very much for all your work. I really love the work you're doing, and I see all these efforts, and it's great stuff. So thanks a lot.